Hey, Dee, guess what? I picked the first summer squash about 10 days ago. So exciting.
Oh, that first squash is always exciting.
And then in the blink of the eye, I'm now staring at 6 summer squashes on the kitchen counter thinking, what am I going to do with these? And one of them is a little bit too big.
Well, I need to send you my fried squash recipe, I think. Squash happens.
It does. All right, well, let's get this podcast started because I've been having some internet issues. Welcome to the Garden Angelist, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
And I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I garden on several acres out in the country.
We call ourselves Garden Angelists because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening and we want others to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Tell me about what you did in the garden this week.
This week, Dee, I kind of call it back to normal, but I trimmed more shrubs. Not quite done, but I'm getting close, and I'm getting kind of on the edge of when I like to do spring flowering shrubs because, be cutting off those blooms if I don't get going on it. I weeded out of the vegetable garden, tons of purslane, fertilized everything on Friday, and then I realized all the containers in the back patio got drenched with 1.5 inches of rain on Saturday, so I might give them another little boost today.
Yeah, you might as well.
Pick the first green beans today. Pick some more little bell peppers to make sure that they keep producing. Of course, summer squash is coming on strong, and daylilies are still looking good. But anyway, it's summertime. How about you, Dee?
It's summertime. There is no squash here because I just don't grow them most of the time because of squash bugs.
I know you don't.
But I'm telling that for people that don't know. Because everybody's going to ask me, what do I know about squash bugs? I know they're horrible. It rained last night, Carol. I know this will surprise you.
Not at all.
It not only rained, it was a huge gust front. All the people on the south side of Oklahoma City are without power. It was quite the deal. But you know what? Most of my pathways are still okay. Just the brick one where the mole hole was. I still have a little spot there that I got to fix. I trimmed back a bunch of stuff. I limbed up my sunshine ligustrums and then tried to post about it. And it didn't quite work the way I wanted, but it's there. It's on Instagram. I limbed up my crepe myrtle, one of them, and I pulled out copious amounts of Rudbeckia goldsturm. So I was so proud of myself, and I had an empty space. So I ran to Davison's nursery on Memorial, because there's two of them. One is closed, one's still open. And I bought some sun coleus, some Cheyenne spirit echinaceas, and some gorgeous brick orange periwinkles. And I'm going to link to them. Tattoo Papaya Vinca.
Nice.
Busy.
So an empty hole in the garden means rush off and buy more plants.
Or put some seeds there. You could have put zinnias because I have another empty hole, but we'll talk about that later.
All right. Well, let's do our plain favorites.
So what's your favorite?
So my favorite is cucumbers right now are starting to get going. I picked 2 little ones so far, and they look really good. The vines look really good. I've kind of sort of got this teepee thing for them to climb up. But I tell people that homegrown cucumbers do not even taste like stuff from the store. I love them.
No, not at all.
I love them.
They're much, much better.
So that's my favorite this week is a couple little cucumbers.
Okay, my favorite this week are Summerific Holy Grail and Summerific Perfect Storm perennial hibiscus. They have really dark leaves. They are not blooming yet, but just those dark leaves are taking over in the kitchen garden, and they're making me really happy. And the grasshoppers haven't found them yet. I don't know how. And they add depth to that kitchen border when those daylilies are gone. And they've also been through a lot this spring, so they deserve a shout out. Some of their stems got broken off in spring. And then tomatoes. I made the best salad.
I don't have any ripe tomatoes
delicious.
yet. We'll see, though.
I have a whole countertop full and then some.
All right. Well, I'm going to do the first quote.
Hey, go for it.
July is a blind date with summer. Hal Borland.
We do love our Hal Borland quotes, don't we?
We do. I'm not exactly what that means, but I guess it's like you never know what you're going to get.
I guess so. So this week I decided we were going to talk about cool marigolds because I found some really interesting ones. I noticed a really unique marigold in Carol Klein's garden that she designed for the Hampton Court Show. And it's called Court Jester. It took me an afternoon. Well, it took me about an hour to figure out which one it was. And it is really cute. And I'm probably going to grow it next spring. I'll start it indoors. And it is a French type marigold. By the way, this week's episode of Gardener's World, if you have BritBox or you pirate it on YouTube, it's all about her garden. She got it finished and she's the garden. They said hero and then she said heroine, the garden heroine for the UK. So that was kind of cool too. Anyway, it's a really touching little segment. So on to marigolds. What do you want to say about them? There's some really cool ones out there.
There are some very cool ones out there, and there are 3 types. You said the French type, which that court jester is, and then you listed Queen Sophia, which I have grown Queen Sophia, Tiger Eyes, and then a Dwarf Legion of Honor.
Yep.
All good ones.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about Queen Sophia. It's really pretty.
The African types, one of the best, those are the big tall ones, is that
Right,
Phyllis from Botanical Interests, which Judy Seaborn, it's like from her mother's garden. Very beautiful.
Yeah, she found it and she named it after her mother. And
I have that growing, but it has not begun to flower yet.
I have seeds for it that I collected from the first year I grew it, and I just didn't get them in this year. I had a little bit going on in the spring.
Really? What was going on?
How about a little fire scarecrow? Yeah.
Oh,
okay, so then there's
you go.
the signet types.
Yes, this is these are all Tagetes, but these are Tagetes tenuifolia. Kind of considered an annual herb, but there's lemon gem and tangerine gem, which I've grown in the past. I'm not growing those now. So I'm trying to think. I know I have the Phyllis ones and they haven't started blooming. And then when I was at Menards a month or so ago, they had some little 6-packs of marigolds for like $1.99.
Mm-hmm.
The variety that they were labeled as red.
Yeah, red.
So I bought
famous
those.
one.
I bought 2 packs of those and planted them on the ends of the vegetable garden beds just to give a spot of color.
Are they truly red or are they a dark orange?
They're dark orange. There's no true red marigold. That's just crazy talk.
I'm sorry. I have to get up and scold my cat.
The cat.
Well, so Masha is so into houseplants, mainly eating them. I've never had a cat that likes to eat houseplants more. And I bought this cool begonia yesterday, and I snapped off some stems and then I put them in water to root them. And then I'm going to plant the begonia, the rest of it, because it was just overgrown. Well, of course, she's over there trying to eat the stems that are in the water. And in a minute, I guess I'll move them outside because I don't have very many houseplants inside anymore because of Masha. But back on to marigolds.
So in England, especially, the marigold often refers not to the ones that we're thinking about, but calendulas, pot marigold.
Right. Which is a totally different thing. And calendula is mostly grown here in the spring. I mean, at least you started in spring. And sometimes if you get a cool summer, it'll keep going on. I had a friend who had one that went all the way to fall. Usually mine get ugly and I pull them up, but I think they're beautiful. And there's a whole line of them. I mean, there's whole lines of calendulas. So if you want to grow an early flower, like what you would grow with nasturtiums and, some of that other early stuff, at least in my climate.
Yes, I think in my climate, depending on the summer, they might do okay. My nasturtiums, by the way, look quite lovely and are starting to bloom that I planted from seed.
Mine are done.
But the other thing I was going to say is marigolds are about the easiest thing in the world to start from seed.
Okay.
In my garden. But there's no shame in buying a few plants. And this spring, my youngest sister said, we were at the greenhouse. She says, I got to get a bunch of marigolds. I says, why? She said her son-in-law said that, not her son-in-law, her stepson. Her stepson said, you got to plant those around your garden to keep the bad bugs out. And I says, well, you can go ahead and do that, but it doesn't really do that.
It doesn't. You would have to choose. I mean, even the people who say it kind of works, you have to put the ones that have the extremely smelly leaves, but I have not noticed that it made a bit of difference. And science has basically proven that it doesn't. But I still love that pairing of tomatoes and marigolds. There's just something really pretty about it. And I plant them every year.
Yes.
And this year I grew big yellow ones and big orange ones. And I'll be honest, I bought them at the store. I started so much other stuff indoors that I didn't start any marigolds. But next year I'm doing court jester.
Well, I have the marigolds I started from seed, like I said, and I bought those. And I went to Plant Partners, Jessica Wallace's book.
Yeah.
And, she doesn't even have marigolds listed in the index, which I'm like, what? But I found where she said there was a tiny bit of scientific studies that said around onions and cole crops, it does keep away some insect pests of those. But the interesting thing is, in another piece of the book, she warns against overplanting plants like marigolds, nasturtiums, all these things to keep out the bad things, because you can end up crowding out the actual vegetable you're trying to grow.
True.
And then it doesn't grow as well.
Right.
So, she had a little sidebars like, don't overplant the garden.
Yeah, there's that. Also, there are some, you said that some marigolds are edible, and we know that calendula is. And then I looked up an article from Masterclass, those classes people take. And so pot marigolds are calendula. And then they also say that French marigolds are edible. African marigolds, although I don't know why you'd want to eat them because they are very strongly scented. I don't think I would eat those.
Yes.
Mexican mint marigolds, which I say tagetes. You said it's tagetes. Lucida, which I've never grown. And lemon marigolds, which is Tagetes tenuifolia. And so they pointed out that Mexican mint marigold has a tarragon flavor and lemon are more citrusy. But I said, don't take our word for it. Always check your seed packet.
Yeah.
Because some of them are not edible.
Yeah, I'm not eating them.
I'm not probably either. I mean, I've eaten calendula many times.
The one thing you have to watch out for, especially when it gets sort of hot and dry, is spider mites.
Yeah, which are not truly an insect, they're a mite. So that makes them more complicated.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. If you go out, and I have seen this in my own garden because I was neglectful, it almost looked like saran wrap on top of the flower because the webbing.
I walked by one day and I looked and I went, oh no, those are got spider mites. And what do you do, Carol?
So I believe there are two options if you have spider mites really bad. You can spray the HE double toothpicks out of them with water to try to wash them off. Mm-hmm. Or you can just pull the marigolds and throw them in the trash.
Or spray them with neem because it's a miticide. But it has to be under 90 degrees because if it's 90 degrees, then neem's going to burn your plants. So yeah, you could just pull the marigolds. I do that. Do you do that all the time? I do. Like if something's just not doing well and everybody next to it is fine, I will yank that trap plant.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the other thing is a lot of insects and mites and stuff, they don't go after the happiest, healthiest plants. Right. They go after the plants that are under stress. And that's why often you see the marigolds with the spider mites when it's really, really hot because the plants are stressed.
Mm-hmm. They aren't getting enough water, regular water. And so they can't really handle all that heat.
Now, Dee, it's no surprise to you that I wrote an article for Family Handyman last summer about how to grow marigolds.
Yep.
We shall link to it. Where are you going?
I'm going to take
Come back.
this away from the kitten, and I'm going to put this outside. So hang on a moment. How about you tell them about your, do the next quote for me.
So this is Dee's quote while she takes some begonia cuttings outside so the cat can't get to them. Oh, wait, Dee's back. She can do the quote herself.
Good grief. Okay. She had taken a stem out of the glass and was chewing on it. I thought she looked too contented. July is hollyhocks and hammocks, fireworks and vacations, hot and steamy weather, cool and refreshing swims, beach picnics, and vegetables all out of the garden. And that's by Jean Hersey, another person we often quote.
Yes, one of my lost ladies of garden writing. So you came up with our vegetable topic, Dee.
I did.
I had never heard of it.
So
never heard of blue spice basil.
Yes, which is Ocimum americanum. which means it was found in the Americas. No, it wasn't. Why is it called Americanum?
No, I looked it up. They said, despite the botanical name, it is actually native to Africa, India, China area.
I just read that. Good grief. Who knew? Well, I didn't think it seemed like anything that grew in America native. I mean, any part of the Americas, right?
No.
And so anyway, I don't know why it's called that. Maybe some American discovered it, quote unquote. So this basil ended up in my garden because I bought a plant from the Tomato Man's daughter about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And I just brought it home because it was interesting. And I planted it out and I've had it ever since because it reseeds quite a lot. But it is extremely easy to pull up. It is friendly. It smells good. The leaves smell good. You could use them in cooking or you don't have to use them in cooking. It's just pretty. And when you brush up against it in the garden, it smells really good.
Now, I wonder if it would reseed in my garden.
Oh, I think it would. Yeah, I think so. Because it reseeds everywhere here. It reseeds in pavement.
I wonder if I want something like that reseeding in my garden.
Well, I mean, I saw a pansy in your pavement the other day, and it would reseed like pansies do in your pavement, but not in a bad way. And it's really easy to pull up. So I've got a little grouping of it right next to one of my smart pots where it's on the outside of the pot and it's using some of those nutrients in the bottom. It smells fabulous when I walk by. So there you go. Oh, and bees like it. But you're going to have it for a long time. I'm just warning people.
So you have in here that it thrives in the heat. You can start it indoors or sow it in place in long summer areas. And
I would sow it in place.
Remove flower buds promptly to prolong the harvest and to keep it from sowing all over the place.
True. So actually that information was from Baker Creek website because Baker's Creek has the seeds, but I'll never have to do them again because I have it forever and ever. Amen. And it's fine. And then you asked in here, how does it compare to African blue basil? Completely different because it is always going to seed and African blue basil never goes to seed. So their smell is completely different.
Okay.
Blue basil smells like kind of like a vanilla perfume.
Nice.
African blue basil smells like an extremely strong basil is how I would describe it, but a very pretty plant.
Very nice.
And they grow completely differently too. Because you know how African blue basil has that kind of wide and tall thing it does, almost like a little baby shrub.
Right.
This grows kind of willowy and thinner. So they have different foliage.
I might check it out. I did want to say that my African blue basil that I did cuttings of is actually growing quite well, and I'll take cuttings of it again.
Me too. Mine's doing great. It's happy. It's starting to do its thing. And it really does feed pollinators because it always is putting out the bloom spikes.
And my Emerald Towers basils, those that I grew from seed, they are also doing great.
Oh my gosh, mine are so good this year. Everyone should grow Emerald Towers, in my opinion. If you want basil all summer long, grow Emerald Towers because it is just one of the prettiest plants. You can break off segments of it, more grow. It's a happy little plant.
It is, and it doesn't flower.
Best thing until ever. I guess it must flower at some point because you can grow it from seed. But I have yet to see it flower in my garden. So
it's it's very late to set flower. Let's just say that. And grows straight up.
We'll just say
straight up.
Yeah, it's a little tower. So it looks like little basil boxwoods.
Yeah.
It's what it reminds me of.
But I just can pluck a few leaves off and add it to my daily salad that I have at lunchtime. And it gives a little basil kick in there. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. It's so good with tomatoes too. And I used it the other night in my salad that I made. It was fabulous. In that corn salad I made.
So
yum, yum.
I'm going to do a quote, and then I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot about salad here in a minute.
We are.
And so with the sunshine and the great bursts of leaves growing on the trees, just as things grow in fast movies, I had that familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer. F. Scott Fitzgerald from The Great Gatsby.
I love The Great Gatsby. I'm glad you picked that. I love it.
On the bookshelf, Salad Freak by Jess Damick. I don't have it.
Okay.
You tell me about it.
You don't. I do. I bought it. I bought it at Anthropology, actually, because sometimes I wander in there just for an artist date and I look around, and I'm going to show Carol, and maybe Carol will do one of her little deals.
I might.
That she does this is what won me over, this plate full of tomatoes. So this young woman, oh gosh, I sound so old by saying that, Jess, she actually worked for Martha Stewart for a long time. And she made Martha Stewart a salad every single day. And the title of the book, Salad Freak, came about because she wasn't sure she wanted to be known as the salad freak, even though she's done every combination of salad you can possibly do. And then she just decided to just go with it, which I thought was really awesome. And there's some stuff in here that is just off the wall, like tea smoked chicken and bitter greens. I'm probably not going to make that one.
Wait a minute.
One
tea
simply
soaked chicken?
No, smoked. I'm sorry. I got a stuffed up nose because we got bad weather. Tea, smoked chicken, and bitter greens.
No, I'm not eating that.
Out.
I'm not eating that.
I'm not eating that. Okay. But simply tomatoes and nasturtiums. If I could find some nasturtium blossoms, but Carol, you could do this. It's simply
I need the tomato
cut up
part.
Tomatoes. Well, you'll get them. Tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, 6 or so nasturtium blossoms, and then extra virgin olive oil and flaky salt.
I can do that.
Anybody could do that one. And that picture on this book is so beautiful. And she's got some just great ideas. And the reason I like it is because it's cooking seasonally, and she's going to farmers markets, but you could do it out of your garden or buying some produce, which I do a little of both. And everything is grouped seasonally. And I was won over by the tomato salads because I always have too many tomatoes. And I just loved her. I also love the fact that she tells you the produce to buy, what should come from your pantry, what you do to prep, and how to serve it. And so it's really written, well, it's just cool.
I would guess that the nasturtium adds a little pepper flavor to the tomato salad.
I would think so.
So look up
pickled blackberry.
If there's some salad I could make with zucchini squash.
I'll look. Well, but let me tell you about this one first. Pickled blackberry and shallot panzanella with sumac. And so she uses a shallot, cherry tomatoes, blackberries or mulberries, which my tree was full of mulberries, a handful of fresh basil. Remember we were talking about basil? And then from your pantry, you're going to need some sourdough bread. And basically, you tear up the sourdough bread, make the dressing, put all these beautiful things together, and serve it on a plate.
That's really nice. So she served these salads to Martha Stewart every day?
She made, like Martha would say, well, not these exact ones, but some of them, yeah. Here we are, raw zucchini. I just saw it. Okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, Martha, she worked for Martha, and every day Martha would say, well, today I'm feeling X. And so she would go in there and figure out a way to make a salad based on what she could find at the market and what Martha wanted. All right, here's one for your zucchini. Raw zucchini, corn, chili, lime, mint, and even more lime.
I have mint. I have mint. I have zucchini. What else do I need?
Corn.
I'd have to buy them.
And limes.
You
could buy corn, and it has basil on it. So really good book. Really, if you could, if you're a cook or if you're a gardener, you can make most of these. And there's just some really wonderful things in here. So I'm excited about this book and I'm enjoying it. Oh, here's one for your cucumbers. You want to hear?
Sure. I don't have that many cucumbers yet, but
you will. Peach, cucumber, avocado, and dukkha. And I don't know what dukkha is.
I don't either.
It's on page 261. Let me look it up and see what it is.
You're making me want to get that cookbook, and I'm not a big cookbook person.
You are not, but sometimes it's a fun cookbook. 261, dukkha. Oh, it's an Egyptian spice, and it has hazelnuts, poppy seeds, hemp, coriander, fennel, and cumin. So you sprinkle that spice on top.
Oh.
But basically, it's peaches and cucumbers and deliciousness.
That does look good.
Anyway, lovely fresh food for our book this week, Salad Freak by Jess, I guess it's Demuck or Demuck. I don't know.
Very interesting. All right, do the next quote.
If anthills are high in July, the coming winter will be hard. American folklore.
I'd never heard that.
Well, the anthills are not high here at all. So let's hope it isn't hard this year. We could use a good, easy.
I've seen
winter.
more ants like late spring and stuff, like along the edges of the sidewalk, just, all through the neighborhood. So
me too.
I don't know what that means.
All right. Our dirt.
We have 2 pieces of dirt. You sent me the Jane Austen escape room book illustrated by Marjolaine Baston. You said, bring out your inner child. It's very nice. Thank you. But it's like an adult activity book, isn't it? Yeah, it's based on Pride and Prejudice story, but they kind of go through the story, and then there's little puzzles and mysteries to solve, which I didn't really solve them. I just read through the whole thing. But it's got the typical, Marjolaine Baston has illustrated the whole thing. And so it is lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you.
And our other dirt.
You found this
about John Deere tractors, and it was in the Wall Street Journal, and I got a free link to it, a gift link, because I'm a subscriber. And it was, why would anyone have 150 John Deere tractors? It was really, really fun to read. I thought it was all about the people who collect antique, and these aren't the big tractors that you see at all the tractor shows. These are lawn tractors. These are lawnmowers, riding lawnmowers. And I actually own a John Deere riding lawnmower and a Honda. So it just made me very amused.
Yeah, I think
Masha's about to get in trouble again.
Yeah, I think my cousin's husband has collected and restored some lawn type tractors.
Yeah.
So, but that is interesting. I will read that, because you said
it was a fun read.
Why would people collect John Deere tractors? And I'm like, why not?
Why not?
There's weirder collections than that.
Too.
There's weirder collections than that.
No kidding.
All right,
do the next quote.
Like a welcome summer rain, humor may suddenly cleanse and cool the earth, the air, and you. Langston Hughes.
I love Langston Hughes. You're going to tell about him.
American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist from Joplin, Missouri. One of the earliest innovators of the literary art form called jazz poetry. Hughes is best known as a leader of the Harlem Renaissance, 1901 to 1967.
Yeah, he was wonderful. All right, our rabbit holes. Do you want me to do mine first, or you want to do yours first?
I'm not even remembering mine. You do yours first.
Okay, I'll do mine first. Okay, so yesterday I was just goofing around, and my zinnia seeds came from Milk and Honey Acreage. And Milk and Honey Acreage are in Zone 8B in Southern Texas. And I noticed her on Instagram because she has these really neat flowered, they're just beautifully colored zinnias, like nothing you've ever seen. Pastels, doubles with 2 colors. Really just amazing. And so I ordered their 22 fundraiser collection because they're doing a fundraiser similar to what Sunflower Steve has done. And I thought, I'm going to support these kids because that's fun. And then I got the seeds yesterday and I planted them out in another hole where the larkspur was. So that's just a little hint. If you grow only perennials, then you don't have these wonderful holes that you can fill with other things. But if you grow stuff from seed, you can go out there and sow it. So I did it right before the thunderstorms came in. We'll see if they come up. I'm sure they will. And I've decided I'm going to hand pollinate my own and collect some seed this fall. But I also went back today while I was waiting and bought their seed donation for this year, which I'll get next spring. And also their sunset collection, because it's in that favorite color thing I have right now, my color crush of that coral colors.
Yes.
And it's a mix of coral, different shades of light orange and all that. So I ordered that too. And then anyway, this isn't the cheapest way to buy zinnia seeds, but I like supporting flower farmers.
Yeah.
Especially if they're trying to make something new.
Yeah. And you did send me a ton of pictures via text, which are very beautiful. And I'm like, I really like those really, I don't know the best way to describe them. Almost that antique Victorian look with the colors and they're almost a smoky coloring to them where they're very muted.
Yeah. They're beautiful. Yeah.
I do like
and that's
those.
what she's working on. Some lavenders, some light pinks. And I inserted a picture in our notes today for inspiration, which is one called strawberry parfait, and it's lighter pink in the middle and darker pink on the edges. Anyway, we will link to some of their stuff. And let's go on to your rabbit hole.
So my rabbit hole is, I got an email from a fellow garden communicator, Kathy Jensen, Washington, D.C. And she asked me if I had ever heard of the garden writer Hannah Ryan, Rion. And I had. No. She was on my queue to be a lost.
You had?
Yeah.
Oh.
I had.
I had not.
She was in my queue to be a lost lady of garden writing, and I just hadn't had a chance to explore her. Well, somebody named Kit R. McMaster III down in South Carolina has written a biography about her called Hannah Ryan, Her Life and Writings, that just came out. So I went ahead and bought this book, and it's from a small press, and I thought I'll just buy the book. But he writes in the intro that during her relatively short life, she was 1874 to 1924. So that's 50 years.
Yeah.
Achieved distinction not only as one of the most popular garden writers of the early 20th century, but also as a musician, painter, and writer of fiction.
Wow.
And so she had 2 books. I knew about the 2 books, The Garden in the Wilderness, which I think you can read on Google Books, and then Let's Make a Flower Garden, which I actually have. And he says they're classics of the garden fever era of the early 1900s. But anyway, she wrote verses for children, short stories, novellas, 2 popular novels. I'm getting the book, and we'll probably do a full review of the book once I have it. And anyway, he said that her watercolors and paintings of Bermudian, English, and American landscapes and seascapes remain coveted items for many in the art world today. Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? Anyway, I'm going to read the biography. And
what was the Twilight Sleep movement?
I don't know what the Twilight Sleep movement was that she was a part of. That's a whole nother rabbit hole I haven't even gone down. The fact that somebody wrote a biography of her almost takes her off my lost ladies list. But the fact that nobody's ever heard of her, I might put her back on. And if I like the book, I'll link to the book. We'll see. That was it. That was my rabbit hole.
Huh. You know what it was? I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
It was a way to, it was one of the first ways to try to help women through childbirth. So they put them in there were a bunch of women, and it was considered part of the very first wave feminist movement. And women asked that they be partially put to sleep to give birth, which is interesting because my mom actually had that kind of I was born that way. My mom sort of went to sleep and woke up, and there I was. Whereas I got to experience the full childbirthing experience. So there you go. It was in 1914. And Atlas Obscura has it, and it says feminists fought for the right to forget childbirth.
Oh, gosh. Well, there's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Who knew?
It's time for our garden commissions. You didn't write anything down, but I did. So summertime, and the gardening is daily harvest. I'm watching for the first tomato. Weeding is pruning, mowing. Looks like I'll be dodging some raindrops this next week. So in other words, it's summertime.
Yeah, well, here I'm going to be planting all of that stuff I bought as soon as you and I get off, as soon as we get our thing finished and figure out what next week's is going to be. I'm going to be out there planting all those plants that are sitting in the middle of the garden, which there's quite a few of them. So I'll be busy.
Yes, you will be busy. And we should note for regular listeners, normally you would never plant something out in July in Oklahoma. You would park that baby in the shade, and you would wait until it was cooler because of the heat. But because you've had so much rain this year and a more delightful summer, you are going to go ahead and plant, right?
I am, but I'm also, like I pointed out to someone online, I have drip irrigation. I have really good soil, and I'm planting things that can handle it if things get bad really quickly, like sun coleus, echinacea, agostiki, things like that.
Okay.
I'm planting stuff that's easy.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure for everybody. With that, we're going to...
Carol's worried.
I'm not worried.
Don't be worried.
I just didn't want people to get the big idea that middle of July is the best time in the world to go ahead and put some new perennials in.
No, it's not the best time.
We want to thank you for listening to The Garden Angelist. I hope you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
If you listen to Apple Podcasts, we'd love a 5-star review that helps us get noticed by others. Could you also share our podcast with your friends? Word of mouth is still the best way to get the word out there.
And be sure and check out our show notes for links for more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites.
And subscribe to our Substack newsletter, The Garden Angelist at substack.com, also linked to in our show notes. If you do, you get a link to listen to the podcast one whole day early.
And if you want to help support us, use those affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission and it costs you nothing. Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal.
All of which we really appreciate. It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.